And what was it for you as a boy to live in Osnabruck? Did you like it?
Yes and no. I mean, early in life I had a friend, I remember his name was Dieter, typical German name. And after a while his parents forbade him from associating with me. So although we had been friends, he would no longer talk with me and see me.
Can you explain me why?
Well, because of the anti-Semitism, because I was Jewish, although that originally had made no difference to us. You know, when children don't start with these prejudices until they learn them from their parents. So I had been friends with him until his parents said, "No, you can't associate with Fritz. He's a Jew."
What did that mean for you?
I felt hurt, and I would ask myself, what did I do to deserve this discrimination and hatred? I didn't do anything. It was only because of my being as a Jew.
To go back to Osnabruck,
Yes.
Where did you live?
In Osnabruck, we lived on a street called Mörserstraße. Mörser was a respected figure in German history. He was a statesman, and the street where we lived was named after him. And I even remember the number, Mörserstraße 38. You know, in Europe the number came after the street. And across the street from us was what was called das Braune Haus. Do you understand what that means?
Well, maybe you can explain it to
The
me.
SSA, the Schutzarbeit, which was the Nazi agency, was across the street from us. And my father, of course, you remember in Germany, the physicians all had enamel plaques on the street to announce what their specialties were. And the Nazis always plastered a swastika over that because they knew he was Jewish. And it was always my job to remove the swastika. And I had steady work.
And what did you think about it, to do that work?
I thought about it as a matter of course. I didn't think anything special about it. I thought it was something I had to do, and I understood that there was discrimination and hatred. And I did what I could in my own little way to remove the hatred and the swastika.
I want to ask you to repeat what Hitler said in English.
Hitler said, at first I'll say it in German again. Die Juden sind unser Unglück. The Jews are our misfortune. And even worse, wenn's Judenblut vom Messer spritzt. Do you understand that? When the Jewish blood sprays off our knives. How did that make us feel? So leaving Germany with that kind of atmosphere, of course, for us, it gave us an immediate sense when we came to this country, an immediate sense of freedom.
What kind of memories do you still have of anti-Semitism in relation with your own personality?
Well, I told you about the fact that I could no longer play with my former playmate, Dieter, because his parents forbade it. And so we were all drawn closer to the few Jewish children were drawn closer to each other. And we could no longer go to the public schools. We would have been beaten up every day. So we attended our Jewish school. We had a very good teacher in that small Jewish school. So I did have a good education, even at that level, despite the fact that I couldn't attend public school, or maybe because I couldn't attend public schools.
Have you ever been threatened because you were a Jew?
In Germany?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell me something about it?
Well, there were some boys who threatened me or even attacked me a few times for being Jewish, because this is what they'd been told by their parents. They were copying what their parents told them. So there was much anti-Semitism at that time.
But when you were threatened,
yes.
Was that in the streets or?
Yes, in the streets.
Can you tell me how did it happen?
Well, boys would come to try to attack me, and it just happened a few times, and I would flee. And in fact, Peter von Peltz was tended to be stronger and larger than the rest of us, and he tended to protect us. Because he had more strength than we had, and he was rather shy. I don't know whether it was because of his strength and because of his size, but he tended to be rather shy. But he did manage, for the most part, to protect us.
Can you tell me something more about Peter? What kind of boy was he?
As I said, he tended to be rather shy, and did not like to project himself, to talk very much, but kept to himself more than most of us did. And I think it was because of his shyness that he behaved that way.
Can you describe to me the relationship between you two? Were you close friends? Were you only classmates?
Yes, we were close friends. Mm-hmm. And of course, we all were drawn closer to each other because we had only each other, these small number of Jewish friends. We could no longer associate with non-Jews. So we were drawn closer to each other in this small Jewish school. And we had a very gifted teacher, Abraham Trepp.
Have you ever read the diary of Anne Frank?
Oh, I've read the diary.
What do you think of Peter in the diary?
That's an interesting question. Well, it seems to me that Anne loved Peter, but also had some reservations about him, which, of course, you know as well as I. Whether all those feelings were justified, I don't know, except as I've told you, Peter was a shy boy, and he certainly never threatened anyone, and I don't think that she would ever have felt threatened by him. He was a kind person. I think she recognized his shyness. She didn't always approve of it, but but she recognized his shyness.
What do you think of the diary in total? What does the diary mean to you?
Well, I think it's a very important, honest piece of writing, which And I think the most important quality in it is honesty. And I really admired her for writing that way. She was obviously a gifted person with an intelligent, inquisitive mind who wanted to know more about the world and why she was discriminated against. Her mind was full of questions, and an inquiring mind.
Did you speak with your parents about things that happened to you?
Yes, I did, and they tried to comfort me and explain to me how this happened. Then of course my father had been a physician, so he had the money to be able to emigrate to this country.
Why did your parents immigrated?
My parents emigrated because of the anti-Semitism, the hatred of Jews, the fact that Jewish boys older than I were beaten in the streets. And the anti-Semitism was becoming stronger and stronger, so they left, and they had I had an uncle in the United States who urged us to come. And one of my closest boyhood friends, Martin Trepp, the son of my teacher, Abraham Trepp, they did not have the money to leave, and he was eventually murdered. And I still grieve for him. Even now I feel tears coming into my eyes when I think of it.
Do you remember discussions at home about this necessity? Why in 1935 and not, for example, in 1933?
I think it became fairly obvious that conditions were becoming worse in Germany for Jews. Hitler had more and more followers, unfortunately. But of course, as I said before, there were many exceptions too, people who disagreed with him. But it was dangerous for people to disagree with him.
What do you remember about the anti-Jewish measures?
The anti-Jewish measures became more and more tight each year. It was like a tightening noose. The things that were forbidden increased every year. For instance, you couldn't go to athletic events anymore after a while. You couldn't swim in the municipal bathing, Badeanstalt, the municipal bathing facilities after a while. So my father would take us to a canal, drive us to a canal where we could swim. The canals were quite clean at that time. So there was, yes, we were certainly aware of the discrimination and the limitations, what we were forbidden to do. The question is, was there a synagogue in Osnabruck, and how many were there? There was only the one synagogue, and it was without any very orthodox, strong beliefs, and it was located on what's called the Rolandstrasse, the temple was there, the synagogue, which eventually, of course, was burned by the Nazis. One of my acquaintances, Lore Gittelzoon, who lived in the synagogue, barely escaped the fire, and people wanted to attack her, and there was a respected officer from the First World War. He held them back. He said, "Was hat die euch denn angetan? Whatever did she do to you?" He was one of the few people who spoke up to protect these innocent Jewish people.
Do you remember any non-Jewish person that showed anything good towards the Jewish community?
Yes. There were a few people among the non-Jews. The Goyim, do you know that word? I still have a beautiful little cup that was given to us when we emigrated, given to us by a non-Jewish couple to make us feel that they did not share Hitler's beliefs. So there were still certainly some non-Jewish Germans who had the right beliefs, who didn't share Hitler's beliefs. They wouldn't have dared to speak it openly at that time, but as I said, when we left, they even made us feel. I still have that beautiful little cup. When I look at it, I realize that in every society, no matter how badly it's run, no matter what kind of a dictatorship it's in, there always are some good people. And it taught me not to generalize.
Okay, you can start.
That's Ernst Weinberg, Fritz Loewenstein, Ewald Aul, Peter van Peltz, Martin Trepp, Siegbert Schöps, Rudolf Jakobson.
Can you remember why this photo was taken? Why?
Oh, why it was taken? Well, I think we knew that we were going to be split up, and we wanted to have a memory of our schoolmates. And I'm really so happy to have this again. Can I keep this? Yeah, this. And, my close friend was Martin Trepp, who was my teacher's son. And of course, it's a very bittersweet feeling with which I look at these, because a few of these were murdered.
Which one were murdered?
Well, Siegbert Schöps, who's second from the left. Martin Trepp, my friend, he was murdered. I still shed tears for him. And then Peter van Peltz. There should never be any discrimination, any hatred of others, no matter what their skin color, no matter what kind of religious beliefs they have, whether they have any or not. Everybody should be judged on his own behavior, whether it's good or bad. That would be my end message.